In this video, we will be discussing about hereditary spherocytosis. We will start with some introduction, then we will go to the pathogenesis, pathophysiology, clinical features, lab test, diagnosis, and finally the treatment. So let's begin the video. So we'll start with the introduction of hereditary spherocytosis. You can also take it as a definition. So we'll break it down into main 3 points. First is that hereditary spherocytosis is an inherited disorder and it follows a autosomal dominant pattern mostly. So it is inherited mainly by the autosomes and a dominant gene must be present, a dominant allele you can call must be present for its expression. Secondly, it is caused by intrinsic defects in the red cell membrane skeleton that forces it to take the shape of spears, make them spheroid and less deformable. They are not able to sustain the shape changes required for traveling. So that makes them vulnerable to splenic sequestration. They get accumulated in the splenic cords and are attacked by macrophages, leading to their destruction. So we can say hereditary spherocytosis is an inherited disorder caused by intrinsic defects in red cell membrane skeleton that render red cells spheroid and less deformable and vulnerable to splenic sequestration and destruction. Now let's see the pathogenesis of this disease or the origin of this disease. The durability and stability of red cell membrane is mainly due to the physicochemical properties of its specialized cell membrane. So the cell membrane skeleton, which lies in the inner cell membrane layer, is mainly composed of proteins. So the main protein is pectin, which is made up of two polypeptide chains alpha and beta, which are intertwined in a helical fashion to form a heterodimer. The head part of these pectin dimers self-associate to form pectin tetramers, and the tail parts they associate with actin oligomer to form a two-dimensional pectin actin skeleton. This pectin actin skeleton is further connected to the cell membrane by sort of two types of connections. The first is through the ankyrin protein and band 4.2 protein and is attached to the band 3 transmembrane ion transporter. The second connection is through 4.2 band protein, which connects it to the another protein, glycophorin A. So what happens when there is a mutation which is mainly a frame shift mutation or which causes a premature stop codon to be there? There is insufficient production of these proteins, and mainly ankyrin protein insufficiency is responsible for hereditary spherocytosis. So when these proteins are insufficient, there is a decrease in the stability of this membrane and it starts to lose or shed its membrane. This is a normal RBC. The early RBC is normal in shape nearly, but as it ages in the circulation, it begins to shed membrane and there is more shedding of membrane relative to the cytoplasm, so it has to take a shape which has the least diameter, so it takes a spheroidal shape and becomes a spear which is trapped in the splenic cords, causing it to be phagocytized by the splenic macrophage. Now coming to the pathophysiology of the hereditary spherocytosis, we can see here So first what happens, there is a mutation which leads to primary membrane skeletal defect, and there is decreased membrane stability leading to membrane loss. So what happens, the surface to volume ratio is decreased, so it has to take the shape of spear, and which leads to decreased deformability, that is, it is not able to resist changes that it has to undergo in the splenic cords. This leads to splenic trapping, and prolonged when it is trapped in the spleen, the splenic environment forces it also to lose K plus and H2O. Also, when it is exposed to prolonged splenic environment, it is called erythrostasis, which causes it to lose glucose and a reduction in its pH. This leads to phagocytosis of these RBC in the spleen by the macrophages, which we know from the previous video is called extravascular hemolysis. Hemolysis caused by the macrophages is called extravascular hemolysis. Now let's see the clinical features of hereditary spherocytosis. First is obviously, since it is destruction of RBCs, so there will be anemia. Then we will have jaundice. Jaundice because there will be increased level of bilirubin, unconjugated bilirubin mainly, so there will be jaundice. Then we will have splenomegaly because since the RBCs are trapped in the splenic cords and are phagocytosed by the splenic macrophages, there will be splenomegaly. Also, there will be increased risk of gallstones, and mainly pigmented gallstones in this case, which is called cholelithiasis. Because when the RBCs are destructed and the hemoglobin forms bilirubin, and which goes to the liver in the form of unconjugated bilirubin, there is more production of bile. So this excessive production of bile leads to gallstone formation. Now let's come to the lab test. First is there will be a decreased hemoglobin. Obviously, because the RBCs are destructed, so hemoglobin level will also decrease. Now we'll see the reticulocyte count will increase. Since the RBCs are being destructed, there will be a compensatory increase in erythropoiesis. It will be a reaction by the bone marrow, and so the reticulocyte count will increase. Reticulocyte, you must know that it is the immature RBCs. So from this we can know there is increased erythropoiesis. Now unconjugated bilirubin will also increase. As told previously, RBC will be destructed, so from the hemoglobin there will be more production of bilirubin. Then come to MCHC, or mean cell hemoglobin content. So MCHC mainly denotes the hemoglobin density in the volume of packed red cells. So since in hereditary spherocytosis there is loss of water, in the pathophysiology we have seen there is loss of water due to erythrostasis, there will be increase in density of hemoglobin. That's why MCHC is increased. In the peripheral smear, we will see spherocytes, which are smaller cells and lack central pallor. Remember, spherocytes is also seen in another condition called autoimmune hemolytic anemia, and this is the most common cause of spherocytes. Now, the best test for hereditary spherocytosis is flow cytometric analysis of RBC membrane protein. Here you can see the peripheral smear. These dark colored spherical RBCs are spherocytes. This is the peripheral smear of a patient after splenectomy. So you can also see some dark nuclear bodies which are called Havel-Jolly bodies. So another diagnostic feature of hereditary spherocytes is osmotic fragility, for which we have the osmotic fragility test. So osmotic fragility test is used to measure the resistance of RBC to hemolysis on exposure to increasingly dilute saline solution. So what happens? So normally the spherocytes are spherical in shape. So when they are put in a hypotonic solution, they start swelling and burst out. So here you can see this is the curve for hereditary spherocytosis, and this is the normal range in yellow for normal RBCs. So around 0.6% NaCl, the spherocytes begin to burst out. There is beginning of the hemolysis. But in case of sickle cell anemia and thalassemia, this curve is towards the left, around here. So in hereditary spherocytosis, the curve shifts towards right, and in sickle cell and thalassemia to the left. So it means that in sickle cell and thalassemia the cells are more rigid, whereas the hereditary spherocytes are more fragile to osmotic pressure. Also remember, as we make the saline solution more dilute, the more easily or the sooner there is hemolysis, the more it is fragile. So hereditary spherocytes are more fragile. Now the treatment for hereditary spherocytosis is splenectomy, but splenectomy only corrects the anemia. The spherocytes are as they are, it will be as it is. But splenectomy will also make the patient susceptible to sepsis. Thank you for watching the video. Do give a like and do subscribe to Made for Med.